gold letters, everything gold letters, turning direct mail to gold. I call it gold because it turns mail into transactions, which is turned into, of course, money. So I just go over how to create and send gold letters for a maximum return on investment. This is kind of my agenda. And so I am a director of operations for the Chandler Real Estate Group with Keller Williams Community Partners, and I'm in the Dayton area. We service greater Dayton, Cincinnati area, as well as we are big with military at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So I've been doing this for about 10 years, and I've been a transaction coordinator, executive assistant, and now I'm director of operations. So I also run a website called theopsgirl.com where I put my playbooks on there as well. So people can feel free to check that out. I have this will be on there as well. So it can be accessed after the seminar. So I really kind of go over what is a gold letter. A lot of people have heard of them, but kind of wonder what we're talking about. So like I said, in simplest terms, it's a letter sent to homeowners that turns into a closed transaction. And really our gold letters are very simple, and I'll go into that in more detail, but they really ask, would you be willing to sell your home to a client? And so I share some processes that I use to send gold letters, and then some of the things that I've learned along the way as well. So where I start is with our criteria. Around the time of COVID, we kind of started gold letters, and it was based off of my rainmaker. She actually sent a letter to some homeowners that had homes that she was actually personally interested in, and she ended up buying a house based off of feedback from a letter that she sent out. And so we were kind of looking for new things to do, and we said, let's do gold letters. So we really started out using our buyer's criteria, and we would go through and, you know, with inventory being really low, we had a lot of buyers who were looking and just could not find what they were looking for. So we would send these gold letters out to them and utilize their criteria to kind of target an area, their budget, square feet, beds, baths, and that's kind of how this was born. So of course, the more criteria that you add, the more specific you become, and you're going to get less results. So if you have somebody that's really specific, you know, you may get results that are, you know, less, you may get less results than if you were to use a more wide criteria for buyers. Something I've been doing recently because of the market shift is targeting non-owner occupied houses for utilizing criteria for non-owner occupied, because one of the objections we were getting is that sure, I'd sell my house to a buyer of yours. It's a great time to sell, but I have nowhere to go. And so that really became the objection we've seen more and more. Of course, we could send out buyer, you know, get more buyer criteria, send out more gold letters, but it kind of became a cycle of just finding people willing to sell, but nobody having a place to go. So we then, you know, brainstormed and said, well, what about non-owner occupied? So what I'll do is I'll do a search of highly desired cities or neighborhoods in my general area, and then I'll target those non-owner occupied homes and send gold letters to them. So you can do that for buyer criteria, or you can do it just in general for, you know, if you just generally want to, you know, like farm, so to say, a specific neighborhood. It is a good way to get listings as well. So that is how that's how I get my criteria in those two ways. As far as search, what we utilize right now is CoreLogic. It's Realist inside of our MLS, and that is available for us for free. And so I have used Rebuild Gateway and RedX. Those are paid systems. So it's really going to depend on what you have available, what your budget is. I always say if you have access to a free system, go ahead and try that out first and see if you like it before you consider a paid system. I'm all about return on investment and keeping costs low. And so it really helps to cut down on the cost per letter and increase your return on investment. So one of the issues we did have was that when we used Realist by CoreLogic, we had a lot of returned mail. So if you do have that issue, you may choose to utilize a paid system and maybe see, a little bit better results. So then once I get all of my criteria, I would move to my data export and preparation stage. Most systems will allow you to export your data and save it as a CSV. And for ease of use, usually what I would do is just organize that information prior to doing a mail merge or anything, so that I have everything ready and everything is going to be easy when I do go to mail merge. So I will separate name, address, city, state, and zip, and then sort my data and make sure that I don't have any duplicates, any wrong or missing information, incomplete addresses, and things of that nature. And so when I prep my letters, your letter can look however you want it to look. You can utilize your own branding, your own letterhead, but my general advice is to keep it, like with any branding, keep it consistent. You want your branding consistent across your brand, right? And so the only thing that I really suggest is just to keep the message direct and simple. We've tried out different wording, we've tried out different ideas, and we always come back to something simple. Would you be willing to sell your home to a client of mine? If so, please call or text me. And for some reason, maybe it piques curiosity, piques interest, but it seems to work. Again, be creative, make the letter your own, but be consistent in whatever you do.
I was actually talking to a coach at another market center, and he said he does the golden letters once a month, I think now. And he has an agent who just uses a QR code, and that's all it is. And people just scan it because they're like, what is this? Yeah, and it just gets the response, which is kind of crazy.
That's actually a really good idea, and that's something I'm going to take back to my rainmaker, because we've thought about this, we've done it, and I'm always open to trying new things and kind of seeing, especially with technology, it's so easy just to snap it.
And usually, you're good. He also said that usually when they send out the letters, if they do one that's more like what you have here, that's like actually has like a typed out, which is probably the more normal way you would do it, they have them write like a little message handwritten, just like a sentence or something like that. That they've noticed that kind of added a personal touch to it as well.
And I know there are services as well based on what you want to spend. There are services that can print what looks like handwritten messages.
Yeah.
And I've seen one example. It was pretty convincing.
Yeah.
If you investigate it further, you can probably tell, but I think off the bat, and that's something I'll go over too, is one of the best ways to make sure these letters are opened is to always hand address them. And so that's another thing that kind of piques people's interest. When you see something handwritten, you're more apt to open it than you are to open something that's mass produced.
Definitely.
Oh my gosh. I have luck with this today.
Good.
I'm sorry.
You're fine.
So once we get all the data put together, we go and we do our mail merge. And so mail merge is too in-depth to go over on a call like this for gold letters, but there are plenty of tutorials that Microsoft has for mail merge. I've attempted, and I don't recommend using Google Sheets to do mail merge. It is not friendly at all. And so really I would suggest using Microsoft. I know there are other open source word processing programs out there, and I'm sure that there are tutorials on those. But yeah, mail merging is the key to getting these letters mass produced, especially if you're doing a bunch of letters. My Rainmaker was actually doing these one by one and typing them into a Word document, which I promptly put in. I said, time is money, and not only should you not be doing this part, but you should also be using mail merge. It's such a time saver.
Yeah, for real.
When you consider return on investment, you do have to consider the time put into, producing the letters and everything else. So once you have your mail merge and you're on to your printing, it really depends on what volume of letters you're doing. So in 2021, we did around, I want to say 9,000 letters. That's something that's going to be too many letters to print on your own printer. So we actually utilize that's more of like a medium volume of print. And so we utilized our office printer, which gave us black and white copies at 4 cents per copy. If you do a large volume, using a local or an online printer is probably going to be the best bet because they're going to offer you volume discounts. So as far as sending the letters, I always suggest, like I said, hand addressing those letters is absolutely key. You can do that yourself if you have a small volume, or you can leverage that and get an independent contractor to do them for you. We are in Dayton, Ohio, and so we were able to get our contractors for a decent wage. We paid them 25 cents per letter to fold the letters, hand addressed and stuff. Getting a self-inking stamp to put the return address on is a game changer as well. Way better than writing it, and even way better than sticking labels on. Simple stamp and you're done. Plus, I believe it looks more professional. And then if you're going to do gold letters in bulk, leasing a postage meter is probably your best bet. It's easier than putting stamps on the letters yourself, and you also get a discount on postage when you use a postage meter as well. So
it's a postage meter.
So it is a machine that you can actually run mail through, and it actually, have you ever seen the red stamps printed on bulk mailed items?
Yeah.
Onto your envelope. So there are automated ones. A lot of them you can run it right through, and it's automatic. It will automatically feed it and print it. And we had a mid-range postage meter, and I think it cost us $90 every 3 months to lease it. And then we did get a bill monthly for, we had to load money onto the postage meter in order to print stamps. And we got a discount. I think it was like 1 penny per stamp off the price of stamps, but over time, it really kind of adds up. Logging the calls and the letters is super important. That's exactly how you calculate your return on investment. So being sure to notate all of the letters that you sent and all the calls that you received is super critical. So I have a spreadsheet that I utilize. You can feel free to create your own. But my tracking spreadsheet, I will show, and then it's available as a download as well on my website. So at the end, anyone that wants would like the templates can go ahead and leave their email, and then I can email them all of the information. Okay, my link is not working. What I can do is I can send that out to anybody that's interested in the tracking spreadsheet. One of the tabs actually is just an overview that goes over what the goals are for how many gold letters you want to send out, how many you've sent, how many are remaining. And then there is a tab on there to log all of your calls. And kind of categorize those into people that are interested, people that are not interested, people that may need to be followed up with. So that's available. I have that available on my website. Receiving calls, this is probably one of the most important aspects is when you receive your calls, taking them live can be challenging, especially if you've sent thousands of gold letters. Even if you send 1,000, the number of calls that you get back can be overwhelming. So we utilized a direct to voicemail system where we would set up our virtual phone service, and our main line would, say, thank you for calling, the Chandler Group. If you received a letter from us, please press 0. They would press 0, and they would get another message that says, please leave us your name, address, and your telephone number, and someone will get back with you between 24 and 48 hours. So this was great because with direct to voicemail, you can prepare before the call, and you can look up their address, get some information on their home, and have all of that in front of you prior to talking to them. So you'll also have time to pull up your call log, to take notes and input any appointments that you get. So as I said, we used the virtual phone service, we used Grasshopper, and the extension for gold letters went directly to voicemail, and we were able to, kind of prepare beforehand. So this is my my bonus information, kind of my ahas from doing gold letters. So the first one is envelopes. So I've had agents who've used plain envelopes, which is probably most cost effective. And then agents who've chosen to use colorful or like craft color envelopes. The main thing is, it doesn't matter what color the envelope is. Of course, a bright one is going to be, draw the eye quicker. But I think the main thing is that they're all hand addressed. And using that self-inking stamp to save some time on the return address, I think that really is the key. So whatever color envelopes you want to use is fine. It's just super important to hand address those. I estimated that at the minimum, each letter costs approximately 70 cents each to send. That it included a basic white envelope, printing cost for the letter, and postage of 58 cents. So that's really that was kind of our bottom line. So each of those letters, 70 cents. Plus, if you're having somebody like a contractor address them, stuff them, you're going to have to add in whatever costs are associated with your contractor as well. But this is where everything kind of comes together is, yes, we're spending almost, $1 on each letter, but the return on that has the potential to be amazing. So in 2021, it was the first full year that I managed the gold letter campaign. We sent out just over 9,000 letters. We received 100 calls, went on 31 appointments, and we closed 4 transactions. So realistically, looking at it in a numbers point of view, we spent $7,705, but we received $14,000, over almost 15 grand in GCI. The caveat there, which that's great. I mean, we're getting a return on investment, but I feel like we really were lacking with our follow-up plan and our lead follow-up. A lot of times, if we weren't able to get in touch with somebody and we called them back, they kind of got swept under the rug. So with better lead follow-up, especially after the appointment as well, I feel like we could have increased our closed transactions by quite a bit. But if you have a lead coordinator, or if you have a really great follow-up plan and you stick by that, I don't see any reason why return on investment couldn't be higher than the example that I gave.
Do you think that it also made any kind of difference in kind of becoming a household name because they just saw your letter with the name on it? So even if they weren't ready yet, did you notice any of that where maybe you got more followers on your social media or something like that?
So I didn't, and I'll tell you why. Because when we sent our gold letters out, my rainmaker was very specific in noting we didn't want to send them out multiple times to the same person, which is kind of different than farming, right? When you farm a neighborhood, you're staying consistently in front of somebody. We realized pretty quickly that that probably wasn't the best route to take. And so I would suggest that keeping a log will help you, to actually consistently market to these people. So let's say you send out, 1,000 gold letters in Q1. In Q2, I would say send out 1,000 gold letters to those same people, minus anybody that called back that, maybe you're in talks with to sell their house, or somebody who just said they just straight out were not interested. There are people that are not interested. I think where you need to differentiate is somebody who is not interested at that time and somebody who's just plain not interested. And you can tell because a lot of the calls that I took, people were upset at being, reached out to via mail for whatever reason. But you could tell they were a little bit more upset at getting the letter than other people. So it really comes down to when you have that conversation, if you have that conversation, you get somebody on the phone, being able to kind of differentiate between, am I not interested at this time, or am I just plain not interested? I'm upset. You have to really kind of differentiate. But I do think that staying in front of people, sending gold letters to, multiple times a year, I think that does increase, brand awareness. And I think that can be a benefit.
So you said that it should go to the same people multiple times a year.
Yeah. I after doing it one way and not sending to the same people, and then testing out actually sending, I think that you can get one letter. The number of people who will call back based on one letter is going to be fairly consistent, but I think staying in front of somebody, you increase your chances, right? The more times that your name is in front of a person. So, definitely sending out, keeping track of who you send them to, and then maybe making it, once per quarter or twice per year, resending those letters. And of course, skipping the people that, like I said, that you've already spoken with, that you've had appointments with, or people that were, upset and not interested.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So that's the end of my presentation. Did you have any more questions?
Well, this has been incredibly helpful. I just really appreciate you taking the time to chat. I know we had Shakira on. I think she had to leave. I think she's dual career, so in the office and also not at the same time. So, but this has been so helpful. I really appreciate this.
No problem. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.